Director Jamie Pollard and Head Coach TJ Otzelberger. After their opening comments, we'll take questions from you, and at that point, we'll need you to raise your hand, and we will call on you to ask your questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Athletics Director Jamie Pollard.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to be brief, but what I wanted to just say this morning is I know ultimately TJ will be evaluated based on how our basketball program does. But if the last 24 hours are any indication, we couldn't have found a better fit. The number of people, donors, former staff members, current staff members that have reached out to me in the last 24 hours is absolutely amazing. TJ, with all due respect, you were an assistant coach for us for 8 years, but I've never met anybody that's been more connected with Iowa Staters that was in an assistant position. I also want to just point out 3 former staff members that reached out to me that I think our fan base would love to know did. First one is Dan McCarney. Coach McCarney couldn't be more excited about Allison and you coming back to Ames. He was Dan McCarney to a T, just fired up. And I'm thinking back, TJ, you had to be in the early 20s. I think your paths only crossed for 1 year. And to think you had that big of an impression on Coach McCarney at that particular time in your life. Second one, John Reeder. John is a coach at Wisconsin on the wrestling program, a former national champion wrestler for us, but he's in St. Louis coaching the Badgers this weekend. And he took time to reach out and say, I've never been more proud and excited to be a Cyclone, and I'm going to be a huge Cyclone basketball fan with TJ coaching that team. And then thirdly, had a great discussion yesterday with Coach Hoiberg. And, Fred's comment to me was, you couldn't have hired a better choice at this time for Iowa State. And so I'm delighted that you're all here today, but today is about TJ, and so I'm going to turn it over to you, and congratulations on being the 21st men's head basketball coach at Iowa State University.
Well, thank you, Jamie. It's certainly been a journey, but it sure feels great to be home. I'd like to start with thanking President Winterstein and Jamie Pollard for entrusting me with the opportunity of a lifetime. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Allison, my 3 children, Jace, Olivia, and Stella. And Stella, I apologize. I know today's your birthday. We were able to have some cupcakes yesterday, but I want to make sure I wish you a happy birthday here today. I'd like to thank UNLV, Desiree Reed-Francois, the community of Las Vegas, the players and coaches from UNLV for everything that they've done on this journey. I'd also like to thank Justin Sell and the folks at South Dakota State, the players, the coaches, and staff that have helped to create this opportunity. Lastly, I'd like to thank Cyclone Nation. It has been so heartwarming over the last 24 hours, the calls, the texts, the communication I've got from so many beloved family members, friends, people in the community, former coaches, players, alums. Incredibly humbling to have that type of reception, and just reaffirms why this is so right. As I was thinking about preparing for today, it was pretty easy. Central Iowa is home for Allison and I. Our passion for the Cyclones has never wavered. We bleed cardinal and gold. And our family's established already here in Central Iowa. So many people that we've known that are family. And it's amazing what you call home for Allison and I, her being from Australia originally, and for me from Milwaukee, and knowing that there's one place on this planet that we call home, and that's right here. I know the things that matter to our fan base, and I'm eager to sell our vision. We need to bring the magic back to Hilton Coliseum. We need to start building a foundation that's going to create the success over the long haul. We're going to do that with people, and it starts with the young men that are on our roster that I look forward to meeting with this afternoon. I'm excited to learn about each of them individually. I've done my homework and watched from afar and studied them. But now it's time for me to have the empathy and be a great listener and understand what they've been going through, to be there for them. And as we look forward with our program, there's nobody important than those young men, and I'm excited for that opportunity this afternoon. We're going to establish a staff that loves Iowa State as much as I do and my family does. The most important thing I've lived with success here is the passion people have for Iowa State. And we're going to put together a staff of high character individuals who do the right thing, who work extremely hard and are excellent teachers of the game. But I can assure you they're going to love Iowa State as much as we all do. We're going to establish the Cyclone brand throughout the Midwest. This is going to be the option in the Big 12. We're going to recruit aggressively throughout the upper Midwest, but most importantly in the state of Iowa. So I look forward to connecting with our fan base, so many of whom I call friends already, and continuing to share this vision and this passion as we move forward. We're going to be relentlessly competitive on the court. I'm somebody that's the work ethic, the work capacity, the level of intensity and accountability that we approach each day, that's going to come through on the floor at Hilton Coliseum and everywhere that the Cyclones play. We're going to compete on every possession. Offensively, we're going to look to play up tempo. We're going to value the basketball. We're going to share the basketball, and we're going to create great opportunities. Defensively, we're going to be stingy. You're going to have to earn everything, and there's going to be no easy baskets against the Cyclones. When I first came to Ames back in 2005, I quickly realized how special this place truly is, and it's about the people. There's nothing like walking out in that tunnel in Hilton Coliseum, and as I walked in this morning, I got a little bit choked up thinking of walking out there and remembering all the memories, all the great times, going through your mind thinking about games and shots and Sweet Caroline and all those moments. And I know I've left Ames a couple times, and I've had some great experiences, but what that's confirmed for me more than anything is my passion for Iowa State. It's time to get to work, and I couldn't be more ready to do so. Go Cyclones.
All right, thank you, TJ. Appreciate your comments. For news media now that want to ask questions, if you can raise your hand, I'll call on you individually. Our first question comes from Elgin Rucker at KCCI.
Hey, Coach. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have a two-part question for you. What do you think about the situation you're inheriting on the court with this team? And then from what you've observed prior to actually getting with these guys, because I know you said that's step one, talking with them, getting to listen to them and hear them. But just at face value, where do you see an opportunity for immediate improvement?
I look forward to visiting with the players. I think there's a lot of talented players on the roster. As a coach, what your job is to put people together and to put a team together, and so that the parts together collectively are better than the individuals. And I'm excited to get with the guys and learn of the relationships, their connections, and trying to put that puzzle together. In terms of where we're at, it's been interesting because I've had so much experience in this program. I've been part of this program when there's been times that we need to certainly be better, and I've been a part of this program at times when we've done some pretty special things. And so the reference point I've had, I've been fortunate in working for 3 tremendous coaches at this institution and seen a lot of ways to do things. So I feel like I have an inside advantage on what it takes to be successful and how to go about that one step at a time. So I think those meetings today are going to, give me a lot of information as we move forward. and we're going to take it one step at a time. We understand the importance in building how every detail matters, and so we're going to be meticulous, we're going to be patient, and we're going to have a tremendous sense of urgency all at the same time.
Next question will go to Travis Hines, the Ames Tribune.
TJ, congratulations.
Thanks, Travis.
Jamie said, I think, in his video Tuesday that he envisioned that this could be a several-year process to get Iowa State basketball to where I envisioned you want it to go. Do you share that timeline, that it could be a multi-year process before, wherever you want to put the bar, NCAA tournament, competing for league titles?
The pride I have in this program and the passion that I have for us to be successful, I don't think can be defined at this point in what the outcomes will be this year, next year, or the coming year. To me, I know the passion we're going to approach each day with. I know the excitement and energy and work capacity and the things that matter to me. I know we've got some young men that we're hopeful will stay with us on this journey. So I'm in a place of saying we're going to be about daily habits. We're going to outwork people every day. We're going to build it the right way. And what success is to somebody else or how they gauge that, I can't control. But what I can control is that nobody's going to outwork us. Nobody's going to have more passion. And nobody's more excited to get to work.
What do you envision the right way to build it is? What's the path forward in terms of, your staff or recruiting? What gets Iowa State to where you want it to be?
Well, with staff, first of all, it comes down to hiring people of great character and integrity, teachers of the game, people that have passion for Iowa State, the family values of Central Iowa, guys they're in this for the long haul. This is, you want people who really love to be here, because that's been my experience even as an assistant coach, is that, people will talk all the time about recruiting. And if you love Iowa State first, all you're doing is telling your story. And that's, to me, that doesn't feel like recruiting. That's been easy. So that would be my, with staff, that's how I'd see it. Look, in terms of recruiting, my background has been extensive in recruiting in the upper Midwest, whether that's been the state of Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, and beyond that. So we want young men that play with tremendous passion and love Iowa State. We want people that know, our student athletes that know that our commitment to excellence and what it's going to take, because the work is in front of us, and I want young people here that embrace that work and understand the impact that they have, not only on the court, but in the classroom and community. So I don't know, if you ask about the composition of the roster, or are you going to recruit more high school guys or transfers or those sort of things, that'll all become more clear to me as we move forward. What I can tell you is I've enjoyed conversation and dialogue with some of the greats that have played here over the last day. And when I think about some of the really successful times we've had, guys like Melvin Edgem and George Niang, Matt Thomas, Monte Morris, Naz Long, I think of those guys like those are cyclones. And I know there's part of being a cyclone for many of us that if you've been one, you know that it is for life. But those are the type of guys to me that I believe were really the catalyst to help move this program forward. And those are the type of guys we're going to continue to recruit and look for and identify in the recruiting process.
Next question's from Matt Bellinson, Iowa State Daily.
Hey, congratulations, Coach. First question I have for you would just be, I know you just mentioned, obviously, you still have to kind of hit the ground running on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal. I'm just curious, the transfer portal, especially this offseason, is going to be way different than what we're used to seeing. I'm just curious. I know you said you're still going to kind of wait and see how you're going to prioritize approaching that, but just on face value, how much are you going to approach the transfer portal, given the fact that it's changed in so many ways, and it's likely going to have a lot of talent in there that can come in and contribute right away?
Like I mentioned at the forefront, it's starting by those conversations with our current players, identifying their strengths and skill sets, and then trying to supplement them with the right players. We don't have a set mindset on, does that need to be all high school players or this many transfers or that? I understand the changes that have happened with the transfer portal, and that there's going to be continuing to be more young people that make that decision. We're going to identify it step by step. We're going to we're going to keep everything going at once. We're going to continue to recruit high school student athletes. We're going to be well aware of the transfer portal. But like I said, first and foremost, it's the guys on the roster. It's the guys that have already made that decision to want to be Cyclones, and we owe it to them first and foremost. But trust me, we'll have those conversations, and we're here to get to work and excited to do that.
Next question comes from Randy Peterson at the Des Moines Register.
I've got a question for Jamie and for TJ. Jamie, how long do you think the Iowa State fan base will be patient, given that you've said it could be several years for the rebuild? How long do you think Iowa State fans can stay patient?
Randy, you've been covering the Cyclones for a long time. Our fan base is as loyal as they come, and I don't expect that to change overnight. Our fan base is that's one of the reasons TJ said he wanted to come back and be a Cyclone. Our fan base is awesome, and I know they'll stick with us.
TJ, welcome back and congratulations. What role has Fred played in your life, and would you be where you are today had he not hired you?
Fred has been someone that is operated with tremendous character and integrity. He's been someone that before we worked together, we had a friendship. Then we had the opportunity to work together for a period of time and accomplish some special things. Fred's friendship and that relationship means a lot to me, and I look forward to now competing against him a little bit too, right? So I'm sure there's gonna be times we're on the same players. So there's a part of this that I have a lot of respect for Fred, and I appreciate who he's been to me and in my life. And the competitor in me right now is thinking about a couple of recruits down the road and how we need to make sure that the right players become Cyclones.
How do you, I think the perception of you, at least when you left, was a recruiter first, which isn't all bad. You need players. And X's and O's guys second. How has that perception changed? And maybe it hasn't. I don't know. And is that a bad thing?
Well, truthfully, when I came to Ames in 2005, and I'd visited with Greg McDermott, and I asked him after he'd hired me, because from an experience standpoint, I knew he could have hired a lot of people that had more years under their belt than I did. And what Greg said to me is, he said, you have a tremendous motor. You have ability to build relationships that are meaningful over the long term and connect with people. And I think that will serve our program well, both in connecting with the fan base and the donors, also in recruiting and developing and nurturing the talent in the program. And when you're a part of a team, the head coach makes the decisions on where you can bring the most value. It's no different than when we take the court. And Coach McDermott clearly outlined where I could bring the most value. It's not to say I didn't do scouting reports, I didn't do game preparation, and wasn't involved in timeouts and making decisions during the games. It was where I could bring the most value to help the team. When Fred came on board, he outlined an entirely different role for me. I was not traveling the country as much. I was recruiting more in the Midwest. We got to a point where I was doing all of the scouting reports, game preparation, and took a whole different role. So where I've been so fortunate with the men that I've worked for is that they've allowed me to grow and have all those responsibilities. I can look at, being a head coach and say, I've had every responsibility throughout a basketball program that you need to have to be successful. I don't shy away from the part of the value that I brought early in my career was certainly as, more so in recruiting and developing and building those relationships with the players. And it's something that's continued to serve me well as I've moved forward, because I think it's a huge advantage or benefit that I think recruiting all the time. I know how important getting the right people in the program and on the bus is. And that's something that I'll always embrace as a strength, and I'm excited about. So I've had those opportunities as a head coach. I've called the timeouts, been coach in NCAA tournaments, beaten a top 5 team in the country on the road. So I think I'm uniquely prepared for this opportunity. But in my past, I've also shown the ability to recruit at a high level, as well as be the head man and call those timeouts in some pretty big games.
Next question from Matt Judy at WOI TV.
Hey, Coach, congratulations on the job. You've mentioned a few times already that this is home. When you first found out that Iowa State was strongly considering you as the next head coach, what were your thoughts when you found that out? What were the emotions like when you heard that?
Well, just to receive consideration was somewhat overwhelming at first, because for my wife and I, our family values, all the people we've come to love and know, and I think in life you accomplish things. There's things you accomplish professionally. This is the only place that we could have it all in terms of family, in terms of our passion for Iowa State, the relationships that we have with people. And so when you think about that, that this is the one place that is all in alignment, it's pretty special. So we were very humbled. We're certainly excited, and feeling really fortunate and grateful to be sitting here in front of you today.
What was your wife's reaction when you went and told her?
There was definitely some nerves. I mean, I talk about, walking out in that tunnel, walking in Hilton today for me, and my wife, Iowa State and Coach Fenley embraced her at a time in her life when she came over from Australia at 18 years old. Jody Steyer is her big sister, stood up in our wedding. Multiple her teammates were in our wedding, and she's always viewed Coach Fenley as a father figure for her. I remember even when we started dating, although I was fortunate that Allison's dad was back in Australia, I had a dad here in Coach Fenley that was he was grilling me and making sure that, and he's still done that to this day. So I can't express how much Iowa State means to Allison. She grew up here as a college student. Her success that she had here as a player and with those lifelong relationships means the world to her. And for many folks, especially as we've been on this journey together, how cool is it for both of us that this is both of our dream and it's happened together. So to say she was excited yet nervous would probably be a vast understatement. There may or may not have been some tears over the last day or so, but it's really special for both of us, and we couldn't be more happy.
Thanks, Coach. Congratulations.
Let's go on to the next question so everybody gets a chance. Next question, Jared Stansbury, Cyclone Fanatic.
TJ, welcome back. You've talked about just knowing Iowa State and already being familiar with the culture. How big can that be for you when you do start hitting the recruiting trail, just because there's not going to be that buffer period of having to learn about the school or anything like that? You can kind of just hit the ground running and get the ball rolling.
Well, we're really fortunate to be in that position. A lot of times somebody comes in as a head coach and there's so many things to learn, how things go at a certain place, and I have the fortunate experience of I've lived it. I've had this experience. My passion is real. my enthusiasm and pride for Iowa State is real. So I do see it as a big advantage because whether it's today as I visit with the team or as we move forward through the weekend and we're making recruiting calls, I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to think of a script. I can just speak from the heart. And people talk all the time in recruiting, what makes somebody a great recruiter? And to me, first you've got to feel it. You've got to love it. I've lived it. And so I think it's something that's going to really serve us well as we get going, because a lot of the relationships that we need to have throughout the state, the upper Midwest, and in the region are relationships that we've had for a number of years. And we can call on those relationships and experiences and look to what's happened in the past and the successes some of those student athletes have had. And it's going to serve us well, and we're really excited to continue to tell that story and know that it's exciting time.
Next question, Ben Visser, Cedar Rapids Gazette.
Hey, Coach, what have you learned about being a head coach during your stops at UNLV and SDSU?
When I was Fred's right-hand guy here at Iowa State, you think you know everything. I thought I was so well prepared to be a head coach. I'd worked for two great coaches. They'd allowed me all the responsibilities, empowered me. And at the same time, until you're sitting in that chair, you really never quite know what it's like. What I learned my first year at South Dakota State, and it felt like it was multiple years in one, because we're at a program that had success, yet we had 4 starters that didn't return from the year before. And so early in the year, things didn't go quite as well as we would have liked. And I remember saying to myself, as I was, in front of our team and my internal dialogue, I'm saying, like, they're watching you right now and they're feeding off your energy. And it's not what you say, it's your actions that are really that people respond to. And they have to see that confidence. They have to see that resiliency. And if you're going to get them to buy in to what you're sharing with them, you better believe it. And so there's all these things that I've learned, and even being a head coach and watching myself on the sidelines, tried to study my court demeanor. At times as a coach, you come in and tell your team to be poised and calm, but I'd be lying to you if I said the first year there was some times that, you might let emotions get the best of you. Really was fortunate that as I've had those experiences, we've had the success along the way at South Dakota State. Like, we mentioned, those challenges we had turned into the stories that, we fought through some adversity and had some success. And then as you move forward onto UNLV, an entirely different experience, a different region, different, now you're in a city as opposed to Midwestern college town. And again, another program with rich history. So what those experiences do is they help prepare you. They give you the background, they give you a skill set, and so it helps you to adapt, to adjust, to understand what it means to be a head coach, what it means to lead people every day. And I'm really thankful and grateful. I've learned a tremendous amount in both of those experiences, both through the great times and the challenges. And that's, uniquely my story and what's made me even more prepared for this opportunity at this time.
Next question, Matthew Bain, the Des Moines Register.
Hey, TJ, congratulations. Iowa State has a couple recruits in this class, but just the one signed in Tyrese Hunter. Have you talked to him yet, and what is the plan moving forward with him? And also, you mentioned recruiting Iowa. Just what does that look like to you? Because I know that a lot of Iowa coaches are going to be excited to hear you say that you want to recruit the state.
Well, first, in regards to Tyrese, just like we're going to visit with our team today, we're going to have a conversation or Zoom call as well. And what I'd say is, it's funny, as I started thinking about Tyrese, he plays at a school that was in the same conference I played in high school. I grew up 20 minutes from there. And in fact, not patting myself on the back because I didn't have a whole lot of great games as an athlete, but I did happen to have 26 points in that gym one time. And I remember playing in that gym. His high school coach, Nick Bennett, is someone I've known for a long time, and is cousins with Tony Bennett, who's the coach at Virginia and been a mentor of mine. He has an older brother that played at Whitewater a few years after I played there. And so there's certainly a lot of connections and ties. We had interest in Tyrese at UNLV and started a process. Didn't get too far down the road, but identified his talent and thought he was special. So I'm excited with all those ties to be able to communicate with him and connect with him today as well. And we'll look forward to doing so. And like I said, it's the players on the roster and the players, and with Tyrese being signed, those are the guys that we're going to start all the conversations with and learn. It's going to help me learn, too, to be honest, about the things that they feel are important and the things from whether it's style of play, whether all those things. We have a very clear plan, but I've always been a lifelong learner and looking forward to have those conversations and hitting the ground running.
Next question, Michael Swain, 247 Sports.
Hey, Coach, congratulations. I know you've answered a couple of recruiting questions, but just want to get your opinion on what maybe your vision for the recruiting footprint for Iowa State is, and also maybe how you'll just approach recruiting the type of talent that you want to get.
Well, we've talked about the passion for Iowa State, and you can look at some of the individuals, and I mentioned some names earlier about what are we looking for in terms of character, work ethic, competitiveness. And so I know that comes in a lot of shapes and sizes. It could be some transfers. There could be some high school student athletes. I know where we're at in the recruiting calendar. I know that many of the top high school prospects have made their decisions. Now, potentially with coaching changes, things can change for those young people. As we talked earlier about the transfer portal, to me, the recruiting piece of it is something that we're going to go one piece at a time. And it's so important that we have the right guys. And geography is a part of that, because I know what it feels like. I've grown up in the upper Midwest, and this is home. So those Midwestern values: roll up your sleeves, work hard, embrace that work every single day. That's what I'm about. So I know for me that the best fit is young people that have the same passion I have. They love this game. I'm a pretty boring person. It's Alice and the kids and work. I don't really have any hobbies or interests. I pour into the young people in our program. I take a tremendous sense of pride in maintaining those relationships over time, seeing them be successful not only as athletes, but as people, as husbands, fathers, community members. So whether it's somebody like George Niang, who's from Methuen, Massachusetts, and how many times does George come back here for a football game? He loves this place. And so whether that's somebody from Iowa, the upper Midwest, across the country, or somewhere else in the world, it's about building it with those type of guys who love Iowa State and want to work with the passion and pride that we have to make Iowa State basketball great.
I think I've been able to take a question from all who have raised their hand. I'm going to take three more. Travis Hines, Ames Tribune. Any follow-ups?
Yeah, I've got a couple for Jamie. Jamie, I'm sure you're feeling left out here. So,
thanks, Travis.
Yeah. I'm curious what the financial details are in terms of the buyout, both for TJ and Steve, and then the contract terms for TJ.
So the part of what made this process, more complicated is just, the finances. Certainly the COVID, this financial year has been challenging for all of us, and taking on, additional expenditures at a time that, we really don't need to be taking those on certainly makes this process, more challenging. And as I said, in a video to our fans several days ago, it was going to be critical that whoever we hired was willing to, think creatively with us on how to tackle those. And, TJ has been awesome throughout this process. And much like Coach Campbell, TJ's passion for wanting to be here outweighs, saying I want to it's about money and I need to make whatever I can make. And, I envision that TJ's contract will be very similar to how Coach Campbell's is structured. And, we just released that this week where it's very incentive laden. And so, and then in addition, there, are buyout costs and there's tax complications with that. And, that's just more complicated than an athletics director is equipped to deal with. And so that involves, tax attorneys and people that are far smarter and more engaged on that particular issue. And so the actual contract will probably take some time to work our way through it, but we have the right professionals working on it. What I can say at this point is, TJ's agreed to a 5-year contract, and, he'll have a base salary with pretty significant incentives.
In terms of what are the buyout numbers, and is that going to get rolled into the debt that you've already kind of laid out, I guess, last month or a month or two ago?
So yes, we're looking at this, Travis, as, not a 1-year decision. We're looking at it as a 5 to 10 year decision. And, when you look and run those numbers out over a 5 to 10 year period, you're going to spend X dollars on, whoever's the men's basketball coach. And in our particular case, we're going to have to front load some of those costs in the initial part because of the buyouts. And so having, TJ's willingness to have a contract that has a base salary with incentives that will clearly reward him if we're successful, but at the same time allows us to essentially pay ourselves back because we have to put in, a considerable amount of money here in the short term just to make the change.
You mentioned in your video bringing in the diversity, equity, and inclusion office into the search. What role did they play and what tangible actions, I guess, did they have to shape the search?
Well, equal opportunity and diversity and inclusion is involved in every decision that you make. And this is no different. And there's procedures that you put in place whenever there's going to be personnel changes. And, when you want to expedite a hiring decision of the magnitude that we're talking about, and, whether it's the football coach or the basketball coach, you're talking about a highly compensated individual, probably one of the, top 3 or 4 compensated individuals on this campus. You just have to be very deliberate, intentional, and communicate with those folks because they have jobs to, and policies and procedures that are put in place for all the right reasons to be able to make sure that, all of us, when you're in that space, that you're thinking very globally. And, it's real easy to say, well, you did this search in 2 days, and so you didn't do that. And so having those individuals at the table to talk them through and say, it's greater than just the head coach. It's also, what's TJ's plan for what his staffing's going to look like? And are we going to make sure that, we actually have a plan to have a diverse staff? And that's the part that office played, whether it was Dr. Winterstein, the general counsel, Mike Norton, or the assistant vice president, Margot Foreman. And, that's what I meant when I said that yesterday is we had a great team that looked at this and said, okay, we have to do this, but let's make sure we do it and we don't forget that we need to have this front and center.
Any other candidates? Yeah, one more. Thanks. Were there any other candidates formally interviewed?
You know me that I'm going to protect the people that had interest in this position because, they have their own reasons for not wanting their names out there. What I will say is formally, Dr. Winterstein and Tim Day interviewed one candidate.
Any further questions from Randy Peterson at the Des Moines Register?
TJ, me again. So maybe you said this earlier, but was your journey Was it all along? Did you figure it would end up back at Iowa State?
That would be, very presumptuous. What I can tell you is that I knew when I came to Iowa State instantly how special this community was, this campus was, the people are. As I've gone elsewhere, I've come to appreciate and understand that even more with the great experiences I've had, especially now as a husband and a father. And you talk about, yes, professionally leading this storied program, but at the top of my priority list is being a great husband and a great father. And to do that in this community, there's nowhere on the planet that's better for that. So if you said to me, did I know that or think my journey would end up here again at some point? Maybe in the back of my mind, or when Allison and I talked, we hope maybe someday that it would. At the same time, you can never predict that or know how that's going to go. But I do know we're really fortunate and grateful and thankful that it has.
That's the word I meant to use. I meant to use hope, and I didn't mean, to be presumptuous. But so when you first got on campus yesterday, did you notice anything different? Is everything still laid out the same? Everything is nothing new to you?
Well, I didn't make it to campus yesterday, but what I did notice this morning is all the changes and all the great additions going on at Jack Trice. Exciting times and the bridge and just so many new things. It's been amazing and certainly a credit to Jamie and his vision. I remember sitting in the meetings in 2005 when he shared his vision on where we were going and who we are and what we would become, and to see those things tangibly come to fruition is pretty cool and it's special. So there's many things that are the same and many changes, and a credit to the coaches here, the community, the generous donors, Jamie's leadership and hard work, because there's a lot of really cool things happening at Iowa State, and I'm excited throughout today and the upcoming days to learn more about all those changes that have happened, because I can tell that a lot has gone on.
Have you talked to Matt Campbell yet? And I know both of you have been swamped.
Matt reached out to me, and I was really appreciative. I was fortunate to get to know Matt initially when he came here, and could tell instantly. I think there's a code amongst coaches. I think some of us, when you meet another coach, you're kind of sizing him up for a few minutes to see if you think if he's real or what he says he is. And I can tell you this, that with Coach Campbell, you could tell his sincerity, genuinely, even when he came to Iowa State and got here initially. You could tell that this is, a lot of people say they want to be somewhere for the long haul, and you could tell that there was a look in his eye and a sincerity to him that he knew that this place was special, and we certainly bonded over that. And then, I'll be honest, early in my coaching career when I went on to be a head coach, we had communication here and there. He would send a text. We made the NCAA tournament, and so it was really his text message when it came congratulating me yesterday and basically saying, that he's here for me. I mean, that's what makes this place special. That's not how it is everywhere. And to have somebody that's as accomplished as Coach Campbell and as busy as he is and everything that he has on his plate, for him to take that time, I can sure tell you it made my family and I feel really good.
I'm good. Thanks. Congratulations.
We'll finish up with Matt Bellinson from the Iowa State Daily. Matt, do you have anything more?
Yeah, TJ, I'm just curious. Obviously, the Big 12 conference looks a lot different in terms of the last time you were a coach in it. I'm just curious. I know, obviously, your goal is to turn this program around and get it back to a competitive state. I'm just curious, what's going to be the challenge of getting back to that point, given the fact that the Big 12 is so loaded top to bottom?
We certainly have a lot of respect for the coaches in the league and the programs. The Big 12 is the best conference in America, and that's proven by 70% of the teams are playing in the NCAA tournament. A lot of those coaches have now become friends or peers or colleagues, and on one end, I have a lot of respect for them professionally. On the other end, competitively, I know how we work. And I know that our process on a daily basis, from a work ethic standpoint, that we'll be at the top of the league. I know that our passion for our position, our desire to be here and want to recruit young men that want to be here, you can't compete with that. And I know that as time moves forward, that's going to win out. Do I know exactly when and how and what that looks like? I don't. But I know what our daily process and our standard of excellence is, and I'll put that up against anybody, whether it's the Big 12 or anyone across the country.
And then last one for me here would just be, in terms of recruiting, what's going to be your mission to not only bring in recruits to a place like Iowa State? We've seen over the past couple of years that this program has had, no problem in terms of bringing in, talented players. What's going to be the challenge of not only bringing in those guys, but making sure that they not only develop here, but possibly stay, long term and can, help build over time?
Well, I think about experiences I've had directly here, and there's a part of recruiting that's identifying and evaluating talent. Sometimes people get caught up in how many stars somebody has next to their name or what their ranking is. I've come to understand that that's one piece of information, but it's certainly far from telling you the whole story. I've been part of the process for guys like Deontay Garrett, who came in as not a very well-known player, who was a four-year Cyclone that's had a professional career, played in the NBA and overseas. I've seen a guy like Melvin Ejim, who many wouldn't have thought was a Big 12 player, develop into the Big 12 Player of the Year and one of the more successful players in Cyclone history. And so as I'm sitting here answering, trying to answer the question, I've lived these experiences and seen that part of it is the recruiting, but part of it is that player development. And I know the investment that we make in young people, it's in that relationship. It's unlocking their potential, building that trust, empowering them to be great and special. And as much as you want to recruit talented student athletes on the front end, the development piece is where I think we have a special expertise. And I keep thinking through this. I'm seeing faces and I'm remembering workouts in State Gym and Forker and now Suka. It's coming to my mind with some of these guys that came here that they weren't household names. They weren't the high-ranked guys, and they were very impactful players in the tradition and history of this program. So I know that we can continue to identify that talent, and whether they're highly ranked on the front end or they're guys that we think have that chip on the shoulder and really want to work to make Iowa State great, we'll go both ways, and we know that we'll piece together and put together a roster that'll make us successful.
On behalf of the athletics department, I'd like to thank you for your participation today and welcome home, TJ. It's great to have you again.
Thank you.